Good morning, Kahal Kadosh, Shavua Tov. Umevorach to everyone. Today, Monday, the 14th day of Tammuz, corresponding to the 3rd of July. Today's class, graciously sponsored for the Refuah Shelema of Esther Mahin Bat Miriam Be'elias by her son David Zohar and family. Additionally, for the Refuah Shelema of Yosef Ben Tzipora by his family. Additionally, Le'ilui Nishmat Miriam Bat Sara by her son Mr. Jack Dweck, as well as Le'ilui Nishmat Moshe Ben Nisha and Esther Rivka Bat Malka Abraham. Yiratzon that the Neshamot have an Aliyah in Gan Eden and the Cholim have a Refuah Shelema among the Cholim of Am Israel. Amen. Before we begin with today's class, today we remember how 2 years ago, out of nowhere, in the middle of the night, the unfortunate tragedy in Surfside took place literally a few minutes ago, rather a few minutes away from here in the next heavily populated Jewish neighborhood of Surfside. A calamity transpired, which I believe the Kahal Kadosh remembers well, and today is the day that actually this tragedy took place. So we're also going to be dedicating today's class Le'ilui Nishmatam, the 98 people who out of nowhere unexpectedly returned their life to Akadosh Baruch Hu. So last night there was a memorial event held in the city of Surfside, remembering this particular unfortunate date and tragedy. I'd like to, before we begin with anything else, would like to perhaps share with the Kahal some of these important messages that we heard last night, and Be'ezat Hashem not only will serve for Le'ilui Nishmatam, but also will serve for Hizuk, because at the end of the day, irrelevant of the location of a tragedy of this magnitude, I believe that everyone is affected directly or indirectly, from the emotional aspect of it, even from the financial aspect of it. And when I say the financial, is the reality is that that Miami-Dade County, since this unfortunate tragedy, reactivated a lot of the building codes, reinforcing a couple of things that perhaps were in the back burner and now suddenly became reactivated. So irrelevant of which angle you look at it, we all are affected by this. So one of the things that was mentioned last night was the importance of a unity and harmony among people. Usually, when a person goes into a certain type of dispute with another person, hopes and believes that, you'll take time and then you apologize or then you forgive. And then in a situation like this, what do we see? That people went back to sleep, planning the next day, planning the next year, planning the next investment, planning the next trip. And what happened? None of the above became a reality. So that was a message, that don't linger on the negativity, don't linger in the argument, but actually concentrate in a more positive way. So when we speak about the collapsing of a building, Hazve Shalom, a lot of matters do happen in such a tragedy. And obviously, I think that we all remember how the Israeli rescue missions came to America, came to Miami, came to Surfside, and they were very, very instrumental, together with the local authorities and local rescue mission, to rescue and to find survivors or human remains. God forbid. And we remember some of some of the people we knew, some of the people that perished in that calamity. But I'll tell you one thing that was mentioned yesterday night by my good friend Rabbi Ephraim Shapiro Shelita from Sharet Tefillah in North Miami Beach. And one thing that he mentioned was the collapsing of walls. Walls. When, God forbid, a demolition takes place, for sure walls are demolished. That's part of what demolition means. Now, he explained a fascinating hidush. In Torah language, there are two words. There are two words which are connected to the word wall. Okay, let's write them. One is kir, and the other one is called homa. Kir and homa. Now, kir is found in the Torah. For example, when it comes to the laws of Mesorah, Mesorah is the biblical label for leprosy, connected to gossip, slander, inappropriate ways of conversation under the banner of Lashon Hara. And the Torah writes that the first sign went to the walls of the home. The Torah calls them kirot habayit. Also, another word is called homa. Homa is also a wall. So he explains that depending on one particular aspect of life, if we say the word kir or homa. And he says, beautiful hidush, that the word kir comes from the Lashon kar. And the word homa comes from Lashon ham. Kar in Hebrew means cold. Ham in Hebrew means hot. So when we speak about others, is when we have a cold heart. We don't care about anyone. I care at one thing. How can I put down someone? That's called kar. Homa is the opposite. Hom, warm. You're not going to speak bad about your friend. And even if somebody's going to speak bad about your friend, you're not going to be happy. Why not? Because you have a warm heart. So it says, kir, homa. For example, Lashon Hara is kar. If I have the power and the audacity to speak bad about another Jew, about another person, it means that my heart, it's hollow. My heart is cold. Nice. Another thing. These two words in the Sephardic world doesn't make much sense. In the Ashkenazic world is a whole different ballgame. Explain to me the difference, what do you see here? Okay, what's the big deal? Kamas, patah, they sound the same. Depends. Sephardic, neshama. Neshama. Ashkenaz, neshoma, neshomo, neshama. This is found in a haftarah that we read a few weeks ago. I believe maybe a week or two ago. I can look for it, but I'm not going to do that. So it says, what's the difference between these two words? Neshama, it's emptiness. Shomem, empty, hollow, non-existing. Neshama means soul. I have a neshama. You have a neshama. If you're a human, you have a neshama. You cannot be a human and not have a neshama. Even goyim have neshama. Maybe more neshama behemit that neshama elokit. But every living creature must have a neshama. Why? Neshama means lashon neshima, breathing. Breathing. Ata noshen tov. You breathe well. So the word neshama is actually from the word neshima. So now, what's the difference in the grammar between this word and this word? We explain this is negative and this is positive. But there is one more difference between the vowel kol, patah, and kamatz. Now, we already know, we discussed this in the past, that even the shape of a letter, the shape of a vowel, it has a meaning. It has an explanation. For example, the segol, the three dotted e. You have sheba, you have segol, you have sere. Each one, two dots, three dots, two dots. Each one of them have a different meaning, even in the pronunciation. For example, if the sheva is in the beginning of the word, it's always pronounced ne. If the sheva is in the middle of the word, it all depends. How do you pronounce it? Is a sheva na or sheva nah? Is the sheva pronounced or is the sheva silent? Also, what are the vowels between the sheva before, the sheva after? It's not a grammar class today, but I think that is imperative, and this is where we learn the laws of reading. Israeli reading is not Torah reading. You need to know this. And I hope in advance, I hope nobody gets insulted on what I've said. But sometimes you hear people from Israel reading, and they're reading based on the Hebrew grammar, which is different than the Torah grammar. In the pronunciation of the letters, the pronunciation of the vowels, the laws of grammar, if it's a tenuah ketana, tenuah gedola, these are all additional titles that the Hebrew vowels get if the vowel is a major vowel or the vowel is a minor vowel. Now, in the Ashkenazic world, it's a whole different ballgame. The kamatz, it's o, the patah, it's a, the sheva, depending on the letter, the tzere could be a. I know both systems, Baruch Hashem, a multi-system, but I can tell you, even sometimes when Ashkenazic people go up to reading of the Sefer, or they try to sound Ashkenazic, they don't really know the pronunciation because they're mixing. That's why today, you know what is out there today? Today there is a Sidur, color-coded. And the color of the vowel tells you how the vowel needs to be pronounced in the Sephardic and Ashkenazic version, because they realize that unless you learn the laws of grammar, you're not going to read well. And that's why sometimes people ask me, can I read the Sefer? No. Why not? I'm a nice guy. I don't say no right away. I said, do you read Sefer Torah regularly? No, but I prepared. Okay, let me listen to you after, and then I'll decide if you read or not. Why do I have to do this? Because we need to make sure that whenever somebody steps up to the teva to read, and to read on behalf of the kahal, there is no room for mediocrity. It needs to be done properly. The Gemara tells a story that Rabbi Akiva was invited to read the Sefer Torah. You think that Rabbi Akiva, mega star, you know what Rabbi Akiva said? I'm sorry. Why not? I didn't prepare it 3 times before you invited me now. 30 seconds, go up to read. I'm not ready. This was Rabbi Akiva. All right, so don't run. Don't run unless you are sure and you're a professional and you know how to read properly, etc. Anyways, let's continue. So what's the answer? Thank you. So then what's the difference between the patah and the kamatz? So the answer is as follows, that the patah represents the person by themselves. You or me, myself, and I. The kamatz, I have support system. I have a beam underneath that's holding the upper. So yes, they sound the same. In the Sephardic tradition, a. In the Ashkenazic is a, o. What change? I have a stick underneath. So if I have the stick, the word is neshama, of soul. But if I don't have the stick, I have the word neshama, which means empty, abandoned, destitute, etc. Third, Abraham, Ishak, and Yaakov. Avotenu HaKedoshim establish the three prayers: Shaharit, Mincha, Arvit, Rashi Tevot, Shema. When you say the word Shema, right away, Shaharit, Mincha, Arvit. Three prayers. How many names the prayer of Arvit has? One name is Arvit. Ashkenazim brothers say Ma'ariv. Right? That's how they call it. What time is Ma'ariv? The real name of the tefillah, according to the Mishnah, according to the Gemara, is Arvit. Why is it called Arvit? From Erev. Also, Ma'ariv, also it's Erev. Ma'ariv. But the language of the Mishnah and the Gemara is Arvit. Now, why is it called Arvit? So right away you will say, Erev, time of the evening. True. But last night we heard of a beautiful Hidush. Abraham, Ishak, and Yaakov, each one lived a different life. Abraham, the founding father of the Jewish people, very active in emunah, in bitachon, in teaching the world the concept of monotheism, of believing in Hashem, in God, and not in a statue or an idol, which was very regretfully active back then in the day. This was the mission of Abraham. Ishak, complete extreme, more limited. And then comes Yaakov. Yaakov got hit from all sides, starting with his brother Esav, going through the challenges of Yosef, Lavan, Binyamin, Dinah, obviously, exactly, that's Dinah, and all the highlights of the life of Yaakov Avinu. Even in the younger years of Yaakov Avinu parenting, there was some type of clashing between the brothers of Yosef, among themselves and among Yosef, until comes to the happy ending of the story, that the brothers and Yosef, they'll reunite themselves, and Baruch Hashem, they all activated themselves to have a tremendous amount of unity and harmony. So this unity and harmony, it's based on the concept that says, Kol Israel Arevim Ze Laze. What does the mean of this sentence? There are many meanings of the word Arev. Arev, we can play with the vowels. I can say Arev lachech. C'est pasuk. Tasteful to the palate. Arev is pleasant. Arev means a guarantee. I need Arev. I'm going to get a loan. The bank says, Tavili Arev. Or somebody's, you want a loan? I'll give you a loan. Give me a guarantor. So the word Arev means sweet, guarantor, involve, and evening. Evening. So why the evening prayer? It's called Arvit. Short answer. Because the evening prayer is connected to Yaakov Avinu. And Yaakov Avinu teaches us the importance of being responsible for one another. Remember, listen to this word. When Yehuda tells his father about Binyamin, what Yehuda says to his father, Anochi e'arbenu. Listen to the words. Anochi e'arbenu. What's the meaning of the word e'arbenu? I'm giving you a guarantee. Fast forward, Yosef and Yehuda. What Yehuda says to Yosef? Ki avdecha arab et anar. Again, which word uses Yehuda? Arab. No Arab. Arab. It's a difference. When you do in the Amidah, for example, Micha give me the next word. Let's see. Ah? Ah? How do you say? Now, Baal or Baal. You know what Baal means? Intimate. Physically intimate with your wife. And Baal means the master. They both sound the same. When you do the Amidah, you say, Micha mocha, Baal Geburot. Who is like you, the intimate of the might? You're talking about that God becomes intimate physically with the might, with justice. You see the difference? Baal means the master. Baal, intimación, intimidad, física. You have, they're written the same. Is where you put the accent. Yeah, la tilde. You follow? So what do we see from Yehuda? We see from Yehuda, like Yaakov Avinu, the concept of arevut, of feeling for each other, of praying for each other. The Gemara already, Baba Kama talks about the zechut of praying for someone else. The Gemara says the following: whoever prays for someone else and they happen to have that same need, their prayers gets answered first. Because you could have prayed for yourself, and then what did you do? You put somebody else's needs before your needs. So Shamayim says, you worry about your friend, we'll take care of you as well. Baruch אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברו. Now, so in summary, the conclusion of yesterday's very powerful Shiur Torah was that by enhancing our relationship with each other, not only it benefits us, but it benefits the entire Jewish people. Especially that we are literally a few days away from the beginning of the Ben HaMesarim, the 3 unfortunate weeks surrounded by different hardships and calamities that transpired throughout history, starting from the Egel, the sin of the golden calf, that took place on the 17th of Tammuz, the breaking of the Luchot, and many other tragedies, but all the way to Tisha B'Av, which is the destruction of the first and second Bet HaMikdash, plus other historical unfortunate events that happened throughout history. And every year we have this hope, Be'ezat Hashem, that the days of hardship and pain and suffering will be reversed into days of redemption, happiness, and joy. But the question is, what are we doing about it? Many times a person comes the 3 weeks, and what is the first thing that crosses their mind? I cannot do this, I cannot do that, I cannot eat meat in the 9 days, I cannot buy new garments, I rather not go on vacation, I gotta postpone it. We are unhappy about the 3 weeks, not because of what the 3 weeks really represent. We just see it as an inconvenience on the scheduling. And I'm not excluding myself in this statement, because when we plan anything, what do? We look at the calendar. No, I'm not going to do this because it's the 3 weeks. I'm not going to buy something because it's the 3 weeks. I'm not going to plan a vacation because it's the 3 weeks. And although that's nice that people want to do the proper halachic matters, that's why we put out a few days ago, you can pick up a paper on the round table as well on our website, the checklist. What can you do and what you should not do? But guess what? Although that is important, our Hachamim established certain takanot, certain decrees, in order for us to be able to have a feeling of the 3 weeks. Because really, okay, I've lived over 50 years of my life without Bet HaMikdash. Okay. And some in the audience, maybe 80 years, 90 years. Ben Porat Yosef. Okay, so, does it make a difference in my life? It should. Spiritually, for sure makes a difference. Physically and emotionally, okay, you go to the kotel, beautiful, nice. You go, you pray, you spend time, you support the Israeli economy, Hazaku Baruch. But we really don't feel much. So that's the reason why, in part, Hachamim established certain guidelines to have a feeling and an understanding that the 3 weeks, they happen in the summer, which in America and in Europe and in Israel is a bit different than in South America. South America happens in the winter, in the middle of the school year. So we get to learn, we get to discuss, we get to feel it. This part of the world, all the kids are on vacation mode. So I'm not sure how much they feel. That's why we talk about it. So this way we understand, guys, the 3 weeks that are coming up are not simple weeks, are weeks that can determine our future as a nation. And guess what? Even though we are already in exile for almost 2,000 years, our hope doesn't die. Our hope doesn't disappear because of being in Galut. And that's part of the message of Ben HaMesarim. Sure, we're coming across to a fast day this coming Thursday. Florida Ta'anit starts 10 to 6, finishes 8:40. In New York, in New Jersey, starts at 4 a.m. And I don't know what time it finishes. Much later than here. And starts 2 hours before. In Europe, 10 o'clock at night maybe, who knows? Even later, okay? In South America, 6 o'clock you're done with, because it's the winter schedule, okay? But bottom line, the idea is not so much the way Rabbi Eliyahu Kitov writes, and it says, and the Rambam as well in the laws of Teshuvah, in the laws of Ta'anit says, the idea is not only the fasting. As I said the other day, today fasting is part of our vocabulary. Many times people do intermittent fasting. You believe in it, does it work or not? Don't talk to me. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist. But this word, intermittent fasting, it's common today. Many people do it. They only eat certain hours a day, and that's it. They don't eat before, they don't eat after. So the actual fast day is not too complicated. But the idea, the Rambam says, is not the fasting. Fasting is another tool to feel that today is different. But the idea is the teshuvah that a person does. Now, when it came, I'm going to discuss two short topics before we finish the class today. The destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, and we're talking about now the second Bet HaMikdash, was destroyed basically due to the lack of a unity and togetherness among Am Israel. Sinat Hinam, the Gemara calls it very clearly baseless hatred. In other words, people didn't like each other. That's basically what it means. For no reason. That's why it's called Hinam. Hinam means what? Free. Free. Free hatred. Like you have free speech, you have free hatred. God forbid. I'm not even comfortable saying these words. But that's what the Gemara writes. The Egel, the sin of the golden calf, it also brought division among the Jewish people. It brought a tragedy among the Jewish people. But guess what? The sin of the spice was more problematic than the sin of the golden calf. And the argument of Korah was more problematic than the sin of the golden calf. And we learned this 2 weeks ago in Perashat Korah, that the day of the Egel, the sin of the golden calf, manna came down to the Jewish people. The day of the argument of Korah, no food delivery. There was no manna coming down. Why not? The Shalah Kadosh writes in the explanation to Gemara Yoma. I believe that's what it's found. And it says that one mahloket pushes away, prevents 100 berachot of parnasa to be delivered to the person. That's the language. Mahloket ahad doha mea parnasot. And we discussed this back then. Because when mahloket, argument, fighting, bickering affects the person and their surroundings, God says, I'll see you later. I don't want to witness this fighting among you. I don't want to see that you and your friend or your supposed to friend suddenly now they don't have the unity. They don't have the friendship. They don't have the positive relationship. So guess what? Based on everything that we are saying, the area that a person must truly invest if we want to change what's happening today. Don't think for a moment that we are in a good shape. We are not in a good track. We are not in a good shape. We are living in a period of uncertainty at all levels. If it's in Israel, if it's in America, if it's in Europe, if it's in South America, look what's happening in France, the riots and everything else. I don't know too much about it, but I do know that there is a lot of crazy things going around through the entire world. From the economic aspect of it, from the emotional, from the moral, from the political, from the security, from the safety, from the Jewish aspect, anti-Semitism, etc. So the world is boiling like a volcano. The world is convulsive at this moment. Not one part of the world. No part of the world today can say, oh, I'm better here than there. Each country today and the global aspect of life, it's having a lot of hiccups. So the question is, what do we do? You can hide in Australia or Hawaii or Argentina. You can. There is nothing there. I mean, there's plenty of good things. Each country has a lot of good things, but there is also a certain level of uncertainty that makes life interesting and questionable. You know what I read yesterday? A crazy thing that Argentinian banks now allow you to open a bank account with a Chinese currency because the peso is so devaluated and there is a shortness of US dollars. So now they allow you to trade in Chinese currency. And the Chinese government is flowing Argentina with Chinese currency, right? In many countries in the world, this shows that they are coming into, right? They put a foothold in their country and they buying a lot of things. That's why our governor activated a rule not long ago, right? That Chinese investors have a limited level of power of purchasing real estate, and especially close to a military base. I don't know much of the politics, sure. All this is going on. So now where you think that a country is going to trade in with a different currency than the dollar? Even Israel. Look at Netanyahu and the court cases and the protesting and the government and the left and the right. Now the left is fighting against the left because they're going too much to the left. True story. True story. This happened yesterday or today. Yeah, they're fighting with each other. We don't understand. But guess what? We understand that the most convulsive and crazy the world becomes, the greater the salvation will be. We have no other answer. That's what the famous Mishnah at the end of Masechet Sotah brings down a list of events that will happen throughout the world prior to Mashiach's arrival. And it talks about inflation, economy, cashless society, slavery, politicians becoming corrupt, immigration topics. Look in the Mishnah, look at the Tosafot, and you will understand exactly what I'm saying. It's easy to understand. You read the Mishnah, it's like you're reading the news of the day. Oh, immigration, cashless society, corruption in the government, corruption in the politicians. No one, life, it's excessively expensive, mamash. And at the end, the Mishnah says, don't worry. Rely in a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Do what we need to do as Yehudim. Serving Hashem, enhancing our Ben Adam Lahavero, our interpersonal relationship. And guess what? The beauty of this statement is that you don't have to travel the world with a banner that says, I love you. You're not in Woodstock. I love you. No, you don't need to do that. Keep it to yourself. Just work in your inner circle. Once you're done with your inner circle in a good way, go out. Inner circle means your immediate family. Your wife, your children, your parents, your in-laws, your relatives, your friends. And as you move along, one person at a time. Don't worry about it. You say, no, how can I take care of the world? Don't take care of the world. Nobody asks you to take care of the world. Take care of yourself. And when a person takes care of themselves, multiply that. But people who take into heart this message of today's class, believe me, the 3 weeks have the potential of reversing themselves. Why? Because every time we come across an unfortunate date or a good date, that opportunity becomes reactivated to reset the button. And perhaps, just to finish with this, the 17th of Tammuz, the upcoming fast day, is on the 17th, which that alone, the number 17 in Hebrew, is the word Tov. In Hebrew, the word Tov equals 17. So what does that mean? That the 17 can reverse into a day of goodness. Also Tisha B'Av. Also Tisha B'Av has the power to reverse itself. So Be'ezat Hashem, Iratzon, that to the words of Torah, it brings an Ilui Neshama to everyone that we mentioned, but obviously to the 98 souls lost from one moment to the other, and they have an Aliyah in Gan Eden, and by helping us, we helping them. And by helping them, they help us. That's what's written in the holy books. That when a person helps a neshama, that neshama becomes your agent. And that neshama vouches for you and prays for you and intercedes for you in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen Be'amen. Rabbi Hanania ben Akashia Omer, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל. לפיכך הרבה להם תורה מזוות שנאמר, אדוני חפש למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה וידיר. קדיש.